You guys think of that comment? That there's, because I think his point is in college football, you lose a game, your national championship aspirations can be over.
Of course, with the Cardinals, it doesn't matter because you're the Cardinals, so lose a couple games here and there.
I don't think that's what he means. No, but I mean, the NFL, you're a great team is going to lose 4 times all year. Like, do you think that's the right mentality to have?
I think he's got to be a little bit careful with his comments because you can't ever get loose and careless with the football, no matter where you're playing, no matter how much each loss counts. Because I mean, it's statistically it's been shown if you turn the ball over, your chances of winning go down, dramatically. So he does have to be careful with it. I mean, hey, it's a lot more fun and a lot more loose when you're getting paid to do what you're doing, which I think is a difference for him too.
Right. I think it's different too when you have someone like the Bidwell family and they draft you as a high draft pick. I think it's also someone like Steve Keim. I know Steve Keim, the general manager, and I know the way Steve is very personable and hands-on. And I know he let this kid know, you're my quarterback. Like, you're the quarterback that I drafted. You are the future of this franchise. And I know personally through guys like Larry Fitzgerald and even Sam Bradford, they have great leadership there in that locker room. So I could understand because now people thought that he was a leader, thought he was outspoken. He got to the NFL and realized, hey, you know something? I ain't no leader of grown men. Larry Fitzgerald is a real leader of grown men. So they've empowered him just to learn the offense. You're going to be here. We're not going to pull you out. We're not going to snatch you out. So I can understand his comments and the way that he distributed them. And also, when you talk about being loose, anytime a quarterback says that and you have any turnovers, they're going to correlate the two together.
And at UCLA, he was constantly under-delivering because the bar was set so high. The expectations were, hey, he's going to be a first-round pick. Therefore, he should lead UCLA to the playoffs, even though his roster around him was not very good. Now he's out there in Arizona. It's not the crucible that Sam Darnold's on in New York. It's not the spotlight that Cleveland as the #1 overall pick and Baker Mayfield. So it is pretty loose. The expectations are low, and he's out there playing relaxed.
All the quarterbacks, all the rookie quarterbacks have had sort of different approaches to the season so far, depending on which organization that has drafted them, between Baker and Sam and Rose and Josh Allen, even Lamar Jackson. Which rookie quarterback has impressed you the most so far this young season?
I think there are 2 that have separated themselves from the rest, and it's Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield, and I don't think anybody would argue that point. And I really want to be careful because I think we as a society, and especially in our business, we have a tendency to have a recency bias. And last game out, you saw Darnold play pretty well, and you saw Baker Mayfield have his roughest game versus a very good Chargers team. But even with that being said, I think when you look at the body of work, I think Sam Darnold has been the most impressive so far. And it's not because the statistics are better, because he's got 9 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He's got a better completion percentage. He's got a better quarterback rating. To me, I was so concerned about Sam Darnold because of the roster that he was inheriting, because of the lack of talent out there.
And how would they play? How would they support him?
Absolutely. And he has been able to raise the level of play of the guys around him and actually make this team relevant, which is something I would not have said going into the season. So Sam Darnold, to me, has been the biggest upside surprise of these rookie quarterbacks, because I thought Baker Mayfield was going to be good.
Darnold, we saw his first pass of his career goes pick 6, and then he plays brilliantly the rest of that Monday Night Football game. Next 2 games were tough for him, and he's played really well, I think, since then. And the Jets all of a sudden are surprising 3-3 on the year, a team that is alive in that AFC wildcard battle. Baker's a guy who I think has played better than his numbers say. A 72 passer rating in 2018, that's like a 52 passer rating in 2008. Like, everybody's got a 90-plus passer rating. Baker's thrown more picks than touchdowns. I still, when I watch him play, and I watch the Browns a lot, it feels like every quarter he makes a couple elite-level throws, elite plays that make me say, okay, once the game slows down for him a bit, and that's a team that we thought was going to have more firepower on the outside than they did. Like, we going into the year, it's like, okay, so they've got Gordon, Callaway, Jarvis. Now it's really just Jarvis as a guy you can rely on. Even Jarvis Landry's having a year that he's not happy with at this point. So I haven't been discouraged by Baker, even though the numbers haven't been good. Are you in the same place?
No, I feel very confident with Baker Mayfield moving forward. I think you see some of the intangibles that you can't measure at the combine. You see a guy who's late in the game versus the Ravens can find a way. You okay?
Yes.
Good, all right, good. You can find a way to make a play against the Ravens and lead a drive down the field. When things are breaking down all around you, you can get outside. The one thing where, and I think you hit on this, and I think you'll see him absolutely improve in this area, we saw one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the history of college football. He was, except until now, Tua, but never threw the ball up for grabs. Didn't have a lot of turnovers. I think you'll get him back to that trend the more comfortable he gets with the system. And you have to remember, Darnold has 2 extra games. With rookies where they've played such a small body of work, that is a lot of reps and snaps and defenses that he's seen. Baker will catch up. He'll get more
had
comfortable.
3 extra games as preparing for the starter.
Exactly.
Because in one of Baker's games, he was inserted at right before the half because Tyrod got injured and wasn't playing well. So he's had almost double the time as far as prep. And Baker didn't have a preseason preparing as the starter. Darnold wasn't anointed the starter, but they clearly wanted him to be the starter.
What has surprised you the most with these rookie quarterbacks this season? In a negative or positive?
Darnold would be the positive for me because I did not see the Jets being a 500 team now. I thought the AFC East was going to be the worst division in football. Maybe it still is, but I did not see them getting their record up to where they were. But when you ask about all of them, you're getting kind of what you expect. You see some flashes of brilliance, and then you see some really bad boneheaded plays. And I think you've seen more flashes of brilliance from Darnold and less boneheaded plays, even though there have been, than guys like Rosen and Josh Allen, who now is hurt. And I think the same thing could be said for Baker Mayfield. You've seen bigger upside moments where, and more consistently you've seen them. And I think that's why I'm more excited about those 2 guys than Rosen and Josh Allen. Because I think I think we have to be careful in saying, hey, this class is the best since the class of '83. This is going to be a historic quarterback class. Because of the way that the NFL is played now, it is easier to play the quarterback position than it has ever been. You're seeing the most yards per game in the history of the game. You're seeing the most touchdown passes thrown. The quarterback ratings are off the charts. And I think it's going to take us some time to evaluate that and say, all right, how does this class really stack up to the greatest of all times?
A little quick thing. Haskins at Ohio State. With the quarterback position being easier in the pros, do you come out after your sophomore season?
If your evaluation is up there and your top 10 picks pick what I think it will be, I think you absolutely come out. And I have changed so much in this regard because there's so much money at stake. It has to be a business decision. You've got to look at it and say, all right, this is $25 million guaranteed. Yeah, maybe I could use a little bit of development in college, but I should be able to go. And I think the NCAA, because there's such a groundswell movement to pay the players. I think the simple solution to this is let the players go when they're ready. Like, take the restrictions off. Maybe make it 2 years if you go to a 2 and done, but let them go as opposed to restricting them every year and they're complaining and they're leaving the season early. You've got to reevaluate when guys can go pro.
All right, Danny,
Well,
thanks so much for being with us today.
He unloaded the whole thing.
There we go.
Goodness gracious. Awesome. We can't have him for no segment.
I'll bring some new shoes next time, too.
Oh, no, I bet you will.
Shoe game.